My wife didn't just betray me. She tried to erase me. She wanted my children, my fortune, even my name. And she had help from the man I once called a friend. They thought they understood the rules. They forgot I wrote them. My name is Marcus Vale. I build risk systems for people who play with other people's money. I make threats visible, I make lies expensive, and I am very good at it. Tonight, I'm in a sub-level office in Tribeca. The city is a low thunder above me. The servers are a steady heart beside me. On the glass, a penthouse suite appears, gold light, black marble, a view that pretends gravity is optional. Celine Archer is laughing on a velvet couch. Julian Pike pours champagne and calls it a promise. Her hand rests on his arm too long, too certain, too loud in a room without sound. On her wrist, a diamond cuff. I never bought a lighthouse for men who chase shipwrecks. I switch windows. I open the encrypted folder I broke last night. Chats unspool across the screen. Curated malice immaculate strategy. Julian, the prenup, will not matter if we prove he used firm resources for surveillance. Celine, my mother's people, will make sure I get full custody. Celine, the twins hardly know him anyway. He married the market years ago. We will help them understand that. Not cheating, erasure. They are writing me into a villain I do not recognize for a courtroom that will not recognize me. I unlock a steel drawer. A thick portfolio waits in the dark. Months of quiet work, long before the affair was more than a pattern. Account flows that do not add up. Shell companies with names that smell like bleach. Travel logs that circle the same hotel under different aliases. And deeper, still sealed files tied to Selena's mother, Eleanor Hartman, New York's favorite ethics crusader, a regulator who speaks like a verdict. 13 years ago, the record reads clean. The sealed pages say otherwise. A drunk nephew drove a family, died, a case went white. The donations turned black. The system bent where it was meant to break. The paper did not forget the paper, never forgets.
Rage is for amateurs. I practice precision. You beat a lie by starving it of oxygen and burying it in dates. There was a time before all this, before the glass walls and the quiet knives, when Selene walked into a midtown gala and every conversation shifted half an inch toward her. We met near a sculpture no one could name. She said my tie looked like someone who trusted numbers more than people. I said that was accurate. We married a year later.
Friends called it fast. My old team called it blind. The twins arrived, Rowan and Ilara, fierce, curious, loud like hope. Selene learned to speak fluent boardroom. I learned to sleep on planes and sign insurance riders that read like weather reports. The first cracks did not sound like shattering. They sounded like less talking, less eye contact, less us. Selene traveled without me and returned with stories that smelled like scripts. Julian resurfaced with favors that came wrapped in nostalgia. He said he missed the days we built a firm out of coffee code and bad furniture. He forgot to mention the clients he took when the money got prettier than the work. I do not confront. Confrontation is theater. Evidence is destiny. So I listened. Public metadata whispered, private carelessness shouted. A cloud bucket named Archive 2, the one people forget to lock. A meeting calendar with an alias that matched a concierge server in a hotel that sells its view like mercy. A scent that changed on Selene's coat, colder, hungrier. The pattern tightened. The man she sat beside tightened with it. They thought the system was a script. They forgot it was a language. I speak it better than they do. I built redundancies. One offline steal on concrete, a lock that does not know the internet. One mirrored to a friend who owes me nothing but hates corruption on principle. one timed to a journalist who writes with teeth and chews slowly. Then the meeting with their attorney, a room in a tower that likes to pretend gravity is optional. Floor-to-ceiling glass of view weaponized into confidence. Lorenz Keane slid a packet across a table designed to make men feel small. Full custody to Selene, the apartment, the cars, a majority of Vale Risk Partners' profits. Sign now or we litigate until you are a cautionary tale. I did not blink. I placed one envelope on the glass. Deliver this to your client and tell Eleanor to read it twice before she decides what justice sounds like this week. He did not open it. Men like him never do. They prefer to believe the envelope is empty until it explodes. The calls began after midnight. Selene first. I let it ring into a dark that had learned my name. Julian next. His number pulsed like a bad memory. I let it die on the table. Then Eleanor. What do you want? Justice. 3 terms. Simple, final, expensive. Selene withdraws the petition and signs full custody to me. Julian sells back his partnership at original valuation. You resign quietly before the subpoenas learn your home address. You are bluffing. You already know I am not. The line went empty, like an office at dusk lights, still on truth, gone home. By noon the next day, Manhattan was a rumor with teeth. I did not light a fire. I opened a window. An anonymous tip with dates that pray to be verified. A redacted ledger that begs for an audit. A whisper placed where whispers become work. Julian cracked first. The furious voicemail, the frightened voicemail, the bargaining voicemail. All in 1 hour, all exactly him. Selene arrived unannounced, perfect hair, imperfect hands. You are ruining us. No.
I am protecting my children. Say why you did it. You were never enough. I married potential, not you. I outgrew what you are. I nodded, and yet I just took back everything that matters. She signed custody, business transfer, property settlement. Each signature a quiet collapse. I placed one more envelope on the table. Inside photographs. Julian boarding a jet with a woman who thinks loyalty is a drink refill.
Withdrawals from a Cayman account he did not mention to his co-conspirator. A yacht party where he toasted an exit while she fought my war. Selene's mask fractured, not loud, just honest. I left without ceremony. You wanted power. Now there is nothing left to fight for. Eleanor resigned within a week. Health reasons, the kind that make lawyers fetch water. Victor Hartman watched his hotel stock bleed slowly under headlines that do not sleep. Julian discovered that doors do not open for men who name themselves after other men's money. He ran. But every airport in the world is the same airport when your name is a search term. Silence settled where noise used to be. It did not feel like victory. It felt like gravity. Months later, the porch of a brownstone on a quiet block in the village. Rowan throws a baseball that wants to be a meteor. Ilara reads on the steps and hums like a small engine. Peace arrives like a guest who finally found the right address. I do not celebrate, I practice. Breakfasts we eat instead of perform. Dinners we finish instead of postpone. Stories that end at the end, not 3 pages earlier, because a calendar is hungry. I tell the twins what they are old enough to hear. I do not tell them what only the law should hold. New York still looks at me like a headline it wants to keep reading. I smile like a man who knows the difference between ink and blood. I go to work. I hire quiet talent. No peacocks, no tourists, no ghosts. We build an ethics wall and measure it twice. We turn down glossy clients whose money smells like smoke. We write a training track for veterans and single parents, people who have already learned the discipline success pretends to teach. But peace is not the end. Peace is only a room you pass through, and the past does not respect locks. One night rain, a crosswalk in Queens, headlights on wet asphalt, a choreography no one rehearsed. Celine on a curb with a phone that forgot how to live. You did not have to come. I know. I came anyway. We waited for the tow truck in a weather that does not take sides. We spoke about the twins, about the piano piece Ilara refuses to abandon, about the way Rowan throws his shoulder when he thinks no one is watching. We did not speak about envelope. We did not speak about signatures. I asked how she thought it would end. Not like this, she said, not with me. Selling townhouses to families who save with envelopes and hope. I said that sounded like good work. She said sometimes they hug me when I hand them keys. Sometimes they do not, but the door still opens. She asked if the twins hate her. They are learning to understand, I said, not to hate. She said, thank you, not for the ride, for the choice. We stood apart under a streetlight that made us look like two different versions of weather. Then the tow driver waved, then the night folded. A message arrived from Lisbon 2 weeks later. Tell Marcus I am sorry. Tell Julian I believe him. Belief is not forgiveness. Belief is just the end of a fight I no longer need. I kept 2 photographs on a shelf that used to hold trophies. Rowan and Ilara in a ridiculous blue pool on a roof, too honest to be fashionable. Celine in a dress that once convinced me the future had manners. I did not keep them to return to that house. I kept them to remember the map. Where I sped, where I should have braked, where I ignored a sign that said slow. The prosecutor called, then called again. Subpoenas, cooperation, depositions that learned my signature. We will take it from here, Mr. Vale. Good. The best victories are the ones you do not have to carry alone, but the city does not forget what it learns. A stranger outside a deli said you are the man who brought them down. I said, I am a father buying oranges. He frowned. Headlines dislike modesty. Another afternoon, a woman tucked a note into my hand. Her brother drowned in an order that forgot to be just. She said thank you with eyes that needed sleep. I said you are welcome with a voice that did not need applause. One Saturday, the doorbell. Eleanor Hartman's handwriting on an envelope that did not try to look like anything else. 2 pages. No excuses. Names spelled correctly. Sorrow written like it cost something. I filed it next to the evidence, not as leverage, as witness. A system cannot heal if it does not remember. Work found a rhythm that did not devour me. We launched a pro bono unit that audits shelters and clinics for free. We trained interns to write reports that judges will not throw away. We told them the first rule is not the client, not the invoice, not the win. The first rule is the truth that survives the room. Then came a call from a number I used to answer on the first ring. Victor Hartman wanted to meet. A private club that likes its secrets shaken, not stirred. He arrived with a smile that did not reach his investment horizon. You made a mess, Mr. Vale. No, I said. I turned on the lights. He offered me a consulting retainer that could buy my block. I pushed it back like a plate I do not eat from. Security is not a costume, I said. It does not fit cowards. He called me principled, like it was a diagnosis. I called for the check. Night returned me to the porch. Rowan tossed Ilara, hummed. I breathed like a man who finally understood that oxygen is not a luxury. I thought about rules and gardens, about games and doors, about maps and the cost of ignoring them. I thought about the man I was, the man I refused, the man I am building now, plank by plank, morning by morning. Some betrayals try to take everything from you. Sometimes they leave you with exactly what you need. Not noise, not trophies, not the applause that fades when the room empties. They leave you with a house that is a home, a name you did not have to defend, two small voices that call you dad and mean it. Part 2. The room was small and expensive and private, a hotel suite in Midtown that pretends silence is a service. Celine Archer stood at the window with the city crawling under her heels. I closed the door behind me, and the click sounded like a clock starting over. You should not have come. You invited me. I invited a man I used to know. He is in the hallway, I said, the one with less patience and worse manners. Her smile arrived late and left early. Do you think fear is a language I forgot? I think fear is a language you never learned. She turned shoulders, tight hands, calm. Marcus, you do not have to do this. That is the point I said I want to. We sat across a table that was trying too hard to be art. The air smelled like the kind of flowers that get paid to be quiet. Julian Pike is going to burn you. He already tried. Then he will try again. He is building narratives with men who rent their ethics by the hour. I nodded. And I am building clocks that do not care about stories. She stared like people stare at a tide they cannot command. You think you can keep my children? I know I can keep my children safe. Those are not the same sentence. They are in my house, and my house is honest. Your mother forgot how to spell that word. Her jaw moved one small surrender. What do you want? Justice? You always say that like it is a reasonable request. It is the only reasonable request left. I left first. Because exits matter, because witnesses remember who leaves the stage without looking back. Down the hallway, the carpet swallowed my footsteps and returned me to the weather. The calls started before the rain did. Eleanor Hartman wanted terms. Victor Hartman wanted leverage. Julian wanted a miracle that does not exist. I gave all three the same answer. The truth is on a timer. The timer is not yours. At the office, I drew a circle on a whiteboard and wrote echo inside it. Inside, threats echo until someone listens. We listened. Priya Shah, my head of forensics, verified the source of a shadow entity that fed Hartman properties, fake insurance valuations. The entity was wrapped inside a charity that mailed blankets in public and moved numbers in private. We followed invoices that did not like being followed. We found a quiet banker in Zurich who liked to talk when a lawyer listened. We built a ladder out of emails and climbed it to a boardroom that thought it was a cloud. Selene called again. Her voice was smaller than the room she paid for. You have to stop. Why would I? Because you will break things you cannot repair. I said the word no, and it sounded like a door closing. She asked if there was anything left between us that was not war. Yes, I said the twins. Then leave them out of this. I am trying. I am failing. I hung up because endings are sometimes the only mercy we can afford. Rowan wanted to pitch in the park after dinner. Ilara wanted me to hear a song that keeps escaping her hands. We did both. The ball hissed and the glove answered. The notes ran and came back and sat down where they belonged. They asked if I was tired. I said yes. They asked if I was done. I said no. Morning brought subpoenas dressed as breakfast. Lorenz Keane tried a new strategy, a leak that accused me of stalking my wife with firm resources. screenshots that were neat enough to be lies. We answered with metadata and a timestamp that the lie forgot to fake. We answered with a control log that showed the server was in maintenance at the exact second they claim it was a spy. We answered with a witness who does not like me and likes perjury less. Their leak drowned in its own weight. The market shrugged. The city learned a new date. Julian called from a number that no longer belonged to him. He wanted a meeting at a warehouse on the river. I do not meet men in movies. He laughed like a man who needs the last joke. Bring a recorder, he said. Bring your best friend. Bring the journalist you think you control. I brought none of them. I brought myself and a phone that only listens to me. The warehouse was a failed gallery with better acoustics than ethics. Julian paced like a man who has finally noticed gravity. You think you have me. I have you enough. He spread his arms like a story. Eleanor will bury this, and you with it. Eleanor is busy remembering names. He stepped closer than he should. You will not release anything because you still love her. I stepped closer than he expected. I love my children more. He smiled like a man who just remembered a second plan. Then let us talk about leverage. He slid a tablet across a crate. Footage from a private dinner 3 years ago. A client of mine, a room, a request, a refusal, a shove. Edited to look like a favor I granted instead of a favor I refused. Try again. He blinked.
This is not the only thing I brought. I nodded at the ceiling. The building has ears. I said careful ears. He looked up and finally realized that the only person with a wire in the room was the room. I left before he could decide whether to be angry or scared. I prefer men like him scared. Angry men cause mess. Scared men cause confessions. By afternoon, the first confession arrived.
A junior accountant from a Hartman subsidiary called our tip line and did not hang up. He described a routine that is not routine, inflating collateral for properties that do not cash flow using a valuation firm that belongs to a trust that belongs to a cousin who belongs to Victor's pocket. He sent files. They were boring in the way only guilty documents can be. We smiled like people who know where the ladder is going. Selene asked to see the twins at my place. I said yes, because that is how adulthood works. Rowan asked if I would watch him throw a slider he had no business throwing. Ilara asked if her song was too sad for a Saturday. Selene watched from the steps with a look I could not afford to read. When they went inside for dessert, she asked a question I expected and did not want. Is there a version of this where we do not destroy each other? Yes, I said, tell the truth before the truth tells you. She swallowed the word and looked at her shoes and the concrete and the way shadows prefer corners. She said she would think about it. I said the timer does not care. Victor made his move the next day. He invited me to a private arbitration that smelled like a verdict and looked like a trap. 3 retired judges, 2 partners from a firm that thinks ethics is a decorative noun, and a chair that costs more than my car. He said the word settlement like a hymn.
I said the word discovery like a hammer. The retired judges looked like men who had just found the step they were missing. Victor tried to smile and found nothing to attach it to. We adjourned with no settlement and more oxygen. Eleanor sent a message written with hands that have signed too many orders. She would resign if I destroyed the remaining shadow accounts quietly. No headlines. No parades. Only gravity. I said yes to the end and no to the condition.
You do not get to negotiate with a fire alarm. She wrote back one word that told me she finally knew what losing feels like. Understood. Night put a storm on the glass and asked me to work inside it. Priya and I built a timeline that made lies look like tourists. Every transfer, every shell, every meeting in rooms that do not like cameras. We placed it all into a vault that opens when my heart does not. We placed a second copy with a journalist who has more patience than friends. We placed a third copy with an attorney who fails to be intimidated for a living. We built a fourth, a ghost, in a public repository that no one can see until a key match arrives. The key lives in a bank that remembers signatures better than faces. This is how you make truth survive. Selene asked to meet again. Same hotel, different room, a table that was tired of our conversations. I told her what I had told her before. Tell the truth before the truth tells you. She asked what truth I wanted, all of it. She said, that is not how this city works. And I said, then let us make the city work differently for 1 hour. She stood like someone who planned to be brave and might succeed. Marcus, she said, if I fall, I cannot stop my mother or Victor. I said, if you do not jump, they will push you anyway. She nodded like a person who finally understood the difference between gravity and mercy. Julian was less poetic. He sent a video of himself with a drink he could not afford anymore. He said he had friends in places that would hurt me. He said I would not like the next week. He was correct about one thing. I did not like the next week. The leak arrived on a Monday that had not asked to be famous. A package to a journalist with an edit of my life designed to look like a sin. Anonymous, sloppy mean. We answered with logs and affidavits, and a client who decided to speak because lies had used his name without permission. The story died a small death, but the smoke stayed. That is what smoke does. I took Rowan to the Diamond and told him the truth about sliders. They are beautiful when you earn them and dangerous when you pretend. He laughed like a boy who believes he will earn everything. Elara played a chorus she could not finish. I told her it is not failure when you cannot end a song, it is courage to start again. She rolled her eyes because fathers say things like that, and daughters are allowed to be philosophers with better timing. A letter arrived with Eleanor's seal and a confession printed like a prayer. She named the dead in the old case. She named the donors who bought the silence and the men who sold it. She named herself. She asked for nothing. The law does not read prayers, but it remembers names. I scanned the pages and sent them to the vault, and the prosecutor, and the journalist, and the man who lost his family, and learned how to keep breathing anyway. The city learned a new kind of silence. Julian asked for one last meeting. A conference room in a tower that advertises discretion as a view. I went, because sometimes you invite the storm to a room that can hold it. He arrived empty-handed and overconfident. You cannot win without me. I already did. He leaned in and lowered his voice like secrets obey volume. You do not have the last key. I already turned it. He blinked like men blink when a plan dies in public. He said the name of a data room I was not supposed to know. I said the name of the courier he used to move the drive last month. He stood up too fast and sat down. Too late. He asked, how? I said, you made me. You taught me that money leaves footprints and men like you leave fingerprints. The door opened, and a federal agent entered with a folder that did not smile. Mr. Piker warrant. Julian looked at me like I had built the building to trap him. I had not. I had only opened the window. The air did the rest. Selene called that night and did not speak for 10 seconds. Then she said thank you and did not say for what. I told her the twins would be at her place at 10 on Saturday, and that we would both be there because that is what parents who are learning do. She said yes, like a person who has decided to be a noun instead of an adjective. Victor invited me to a club again, and I said yes, because endings belong where they started. He poured something old and called it peace. He said he would make calls that would make headlines leave me alone. I said the headlines were never my problem. He asked what I wanted. I said a scholarship fund in the name of the family. The system forgot. He said that is not how these conversations go. I said that is the only way this one goes. He stared at the glass and saw himself and did not like the angle. He said fine. He said he would call it philanthropy. I said call it debt. The fund launched without a stage. Checks moved. Kids who needed doors got doors.
No one clapped. That is what dignity sounds like. We learned how to share weekends without turning them into negotiations. We learned how to talk about school forms without turning them into verdicts. We learned that the twins prefer pancakes that are ugly and honest to pancakes that are perfect and cold. We learned that time is a currency that buys trust when you spend it slowly. The final turn arrived without thunder. A quiet court date.
A custody order that valued hours over headlines. A line in a judgment that read like the truth clearing its throat. We left the building and the sky looked ordinary, and that felt like a gift. On the porch that night, Rowan threw until the ball forgot the ground. Ilara finished her song and smiled without asking if it was good. I sat and let the city be loud without needing to answer. I thought about the rules I used to think I wrote.
I thought about the ledgers that finally balanced. I thought about the shadows money casts and the light we choose anyway. Some betrayals try to take everything from you. Sometimes they leave you with what you needed to find. Not applause, not armor. Just a home that says your name and means it. 2 voices that call you dad and wait for you to answer. A man who does not need to win louder than his children's sleep.
If you are standing in a room that smells like endings, listen. You can fight clean, you can fight quiet, you can make the truth patient and relentless. You can refuse the shortcuts that eat your life from the inside. You can open a window and let the air do what air always does. And you can win. Not the loud victory, not the headline, the kind that lets your porch be a porch again, the kind that lets you breathe.